Focus. I'm thankful for another week. Hope you had a great day in church yesterday and that you're looking forward to what the Lord has in store for you today and all week long. Here in Michigan, we got started with a very cold day. I think it was 19 degrees on my way into the office a little before 8. And I'm hoping it warms up a little bit because that is just a little too cold as you anticipate spring. But you know what? It's what the Lord ordered, and we'll be thankful for it and rejoice in it. But I will tell you, it was cold. All right, we're in Psalm 26, and we're looking at David's promises. I see four of them here. Starting in verse number 6, he says, I will wash mine hands in innocency. He is making a promise here to God. The picture of one washing their hands is for cleanliness, for purity, to sterilize or to get germs away. And David is using that as an illustration, and he is saying, God, I want my life to be pure. I want it to be unstained from the world. I don't want it to be germed, have these germs of sin. I want to have pure hands. And so his promise is that I will wash my hands in innocency. I want a pure approach in my worship and in my service to you. So I will compass thine altar, O Lord. And so he is saying, I think the picture there, and most commentators would agree that this is an idea of how David would worship. He is saying that this is a commitment of worship. So whether I'm at the church house and I'm worshiping, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Whether I am in my personal devotions, whether I am at a wedding, whether I am enjoying exercise, I am going to worship. In other words, I am going to express the worth of my God in every situation and circumstance because the worth of my God never changes. And no matter how difficult life is or how wonderful life is, the truths of my God never change. And who God is never changes. And he is worthy of my worship. And so David is saying, I want my life to be pure and I want my worship to be continual. And then he goes on to say that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell all thy wondrous works. And so David is saying, I want my worship to be continual. And as people witness my continual worship of God, it's going to have some real evidence, the evidence of constant thanksgiving. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be around somebody who is just constantly praising God and thanking God and was just incredibly optimistic and positive about life and about God's involvement and God's purposes and God's sovereignty and control? It's so easy to be around people who are negative and down in the dumps and everything is falling apart and nothing is working together and there's a boogeyman behind every stone and there is a problem just waiting to show its face, and they're hard to be around, and God is so much better than all of that. And David said, I want to have a continual worship, but I'm going to tell you, it's going to have evidence. It's going to be that which is thankful. I'm going to demonstrate or publish, make known the thanksgiving that I have towards God and tell all of his wondrous works. I'm going to tell people how good God is and what God is doing. I'm going to be one continual testimony of God's greatness as I worship him. And then he says in verse number 8, Lord, I have loved the habitation of thy house. In other words, the third promise is that I will love your house. Well, I don't think David is saying, I'm going to love the building. I don't think he's going to say, I'm going to love the order of service. He's not going to say, you know what, I'm going to overly be consumed with the quality of the music and the quality of the service and the conditions of the auditorium, or I don't think he's even referencing the people and the fellowship and the joy of being around other friends and of God's people. And I don't think he's saying any of that. He is saying that I am going to love going to God's house because of his presence. It pictured back in David's day the presence of God. And it's true today when we make a priority of going to church and being in church. We're making a priority of wanting to dwell where God has told me to be because he will meet me there. It's God's presence that David promised to love. And then he says, gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity. Redeem me and be merciful unto me. My foot standeth in an even place. In the congregation will I bless the Lord. His fourth promise is, I will walk in mine integrity. In other words, God, my decisions will be rooted in virtue. My decisions will be rooted in a moral rightness, moral correctness, moral excellence, and I want people to come to a right conclusion about my God. And so David is saying, I promise, God, I want to walk in purity, and I want to worship continually, and it'll be manifested in thanksgiving and in praise of thy wondrous works. He said, I promise to love your house, to love being in your presence and worshiping you. And I promise to walk in mine integrity. What a great way to start the week, right? To just look at these things and say, God, these are not things that are unique to David. These are things that ought to be promises I make to you. And I hope that each of us will share our heart with God, have some intimate moments where we just share our heart and make these promises and live the way God called us and saved us to live. God bless you. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.